Good everyone, welcome to this video. Today we have a review of the D371 HS-9. This vehicle's been available a couple of times, and of course this is how I got mine. I got it during the 10 Rare Vehicles event, which of course you would have seen all of the reviews for. If you're new to the channel, I've recently reviewed the ones that I either hadn't had, obviously this has been one of them, and of course the other vehicles that I either have done are already on the channel and the reviews are still pretty up to date, except probably for the TB3 to be honest. And, well, this is the last vehicle that I needed to do. Of course, you would have seen the Lag 323 earlier today. I'm basically leaving the ones that can't be bought anymore until last, because that way it makes sense. And that way the information isn't as out of date, so to speak. So the D371 HS-9 essentially takes a regular D371 and changes the armament quite considerably. As you can see by these two large barrels, these are 20mm autocannons. However, there is a bit of a problem with this thing, and well, we're going to discuss that shortly. So the regular D371 has access to four 7.5 MLE 33 machine guns. Obviously they share basically the same guns, so you don't need to worry about that. Of course, the vehicle itself is relatively maneuverable. Obviously, it's not going to be beaten by planes, but this is one of the few parasol-winged aircraft in the game. Obviously, its brethren being pretty much the rest. Now, of course, taking the 7.5s out and exchanging them for Hispano cannons sounds pretty good on principle. But then you come to the flaws. So for those that are newer to the game, recently, there has been a nerf to pretty much every cannon in the game. And this aircraft is one of the hardest hit ones, because obviously it relies purely on cannon armament. Now, from what I've heard, this aircraft could apparently mount a pair of 7.5s in the engine cowling, but I can't confirm that because I have no source on that, and I haven't seen any sources regarding that. If you do happen to have a source for that, please do let me know. I'd love to see it. Now, the recommended belts are either going to be stealth or ground targets. Tracers is far too sparky, and Universal is, again, far too sparky, mainly due to the tracer round and the sappy round. Mainly you want to try and avoid using the sappy round if you can, as well as the tracer round, because they tend to be the ones that cause the sparking. Obviously, these two belts are recommended here, either have tracer or sappy, but there's no real way of avoiding it, unfortunately, and you do not want to use the stock belt, because that's even worse. But of course, that's not its only major flaw. It's the ammo count. This only has 30 rounds per gun. Now that sounds good, but when you look at the fire rate of 400 rounds a minute, you only have a firing time of, well, not even a few seconds, to put it simply. You have to tap fire these guns, and it does make it pretty tricky to manage this aircraft's armament. And of course, as you're going to see in the gameplay, the guns either shred, or they do very little damage and spark. So they are very inconsistent. The engine, of course, doesn't change over from the regular D371 and 73. We have the Gnome Roan 14 KFS engine, which is a 14-cylinder radial engine, producing 800 horsepower off-wep and 930 on-wep. This is more than enough horsepower to handle itself at low BR, and its overall speed and handling is pretty generous, and the climb rate is also pretty good. But of course, against the more meta planes, which it will run into because it does get into 2.3 matches on occasion, it is going to struggle. Against bombers, this aircraft really does struggle unless you're using the ground target belt, and that's really what limits it. You can't go after bombers, really. I mean, you can, but you're going to dump your entire ammo load to kill them, I can assure you that. And just overall, its performance against the more meta fighters doesn't really stand up. I once ran into an XF5F in this thing, and that wasn't pleasant, to say the least. I did manage to beat him because I knew how to beat an XF5F, but that's not the point. The point is that you are going to be struggling against these sorts of aircraft, particularly BF-109s. Your main fuel tank is right where your oil is, so if you take an oil hit, you're probably taking a fuel tank hit, and this is, of course, not self-sealing. It's not exactly beneficial because your tail control is also right behind that. And trust me, I've had the tail control shot out in Ground RB quite a bit, and that's where I use this thing a lot, surprisingly. It's actually pretty good in Ground RB because the 20mm Hispanos have 37mm of penetration. And if you pair it up with, well, I have it, some people probably won't, the new AMD 35 SA35, it's actually a pretty good combo, I must admit. Obviously, the AMD is not very good, but neither is this thing. So it's a pretty decent, bad combo, to be honest. And they do work well together. Of course, you cannot purchase this vehicle, as I said. It used to be available as a pack vehicle back when France first came out. It then went on as a marketplace vehicle and then disappeared. And now the only way to get this vehicle is if it pops up in an event again, which I don't think it will for a while now. But, and there was also one other time when you could get it as part of an event in 2019, I believe it was, or 2018. That was the only real times you could get this vehicle. So if you haven't got it, you're probably not going to see this vehicle for a while. But I don't think you're missing much. Anyway, I'm going to leave you all to it for today. I will hand you over to the gameplay now, and I will see you all on the next one. Well, we've got ourselves in a good position. The problem is, of course, the elephant in the room, that is this thing's ammo count. As I would have mentioned in the hangar, I don't like things with low ammo count. I mean, there are some exceptions to that rule, but I mean, 30 rounds? I really wish this thing had some, like, extra armament added. If I remember rightly, there is actually, like, out there, I think there's actually a source that says this thing had 2 cow-mounted 7.5s. That would really help it out. Okay. We've got a CR42. Okay, well, he's done, but so is the F3F. I'm going to make my way over here to this CR42. Yeah, you got the CR42, but it's going to cost him his engine. I'm not going after that thing, because that thing will eat all my shells, and I'd rather not do that. With only 30 rounds of gun, you have to be very considerate of the targets you pick. I've had bombers soak down the entire lot, so just bear that in mind. So obviously, being a parasol fighter, we're not as maneuverable as a biplane, but we don't need to be, because we climb pretty good. I say that, and our guns spark then. I don't know if you saw the spark, but you'll notice I'm not just holding down the trigger, I'm actually tapping the trigger for the most part. The reason for that is, well, you kind of have to be considerate of your ammo count. But when the guns do work, they hit pretty hard. But that's the catch, they need to work. And they don't always work. So, yeah. Not fun, to say the least. Not fun at all. We've still got 4/5 of our ammo left, so that's at least something. Gonna try and get involved here with this 112. Need to pull off a little bit here and then loop it over like so. This thing is quite maneuverable, but it's not going to beat biplanes, as I said. Sparks. In case you wondered what belt I'm running stealth. That was close. G50's coming in now. That thing's got very good guns. I'm going to leave my teammate in the hands of dealing with that. So I'm going to focus on the G50, see if I can't finish this thing off. There we go. But no doubt the XF5F pilot is going to try and steal this, so I'm going to hopefully try and finish it off. There we go, and I got a kill assist on the 112. Sweet. So we have 18 bullets left. Well, shells, if you want to be technical. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can take out some of those SPGs, because they normally only take like 1 or 2 rounds. But yeah, this thing just isn't very consistent. Like, as you saw with the 112, like, its guns either hit really hard or they hit quite shit, to be honest. There's no other way of putting it. But, like, I've actually had good use out of this thing in Grand RB, which I know that sounds ridiculous considering it's got 30 rounds per gun. But I've actually killed quite a few tanks in one ammo load with this thing. I mean, obviously that's not a good example, because that took 2 bursts there. Well, you could call it a burst. That was just a tap. But yeah, my personal advice is if you do get this thing in the future, like if it comes up in another event, just tap fire, because that's probably going to be your best option. I'm going to go for a top attack angle on this SPG. There we go. See, you can do some ground pounding. To some extent. It's not a ground pound, I can assure you that. There's another SPG over there. I'm mainly targeting these because these die in like 2 bullets. It's just easier for me to go for them. There we go. That's friendly, that's alright. Did you break something off there, buddy? Sounded to me like you did. So I've got 6 bullets left. That gives us plenty of time to help kill off the rest of these SPGs. Yeah, don't think this thing's consistent, because it's not. Most days this thing is just crap, but, you know, it's something at least. Oh no, the high explosive didn't kill it! Oh, that sucks. Alright, I'm gonna go back to base. I mean, I could just ram that geezer, but, you know, I mean, it's an option, I guess. Could we do it? Then again, the P-36 are going for him. I think we've done enough for now. Yeah, the Stuka's dogfighting him. Right, since the last enemy players are that guy up there, who I'm not going to go after, and that Stuka, I will cut back to when we get back into the match to do some ground pounding. See you in a moment. Well, welcome back. The last enemy player is the BB-138. The Stuka got killed by the Potez, the 630 on my team, and then he took out the 630 in return. So now all we need to do is, well, kill 1 grand target and we win. Because it was going to be 2, but, well, it's only 1 now. And that's it. That's game. Because by the time I'd find the 138, he's probably back at his airfield, and it's just quicker to do that, really. But there we go. That is the D.371 HS-9. Not a very consistent plane, but, I mean, it has character, I guess, so that's at least something. And also, it's one of the few Parasol aircraft we actually have in the game. Its brethren, the other D.371s in the tech tree, are pretty much the only ones. So, I guess that has it going for it.